Okay. Where are my speakers? Excuse me. Did you get your pizza?
Nope.
Do you want to get your
I
pizza?
will get my pizza when I earn my pizza.
That's not how it works. Sadia, you're going second, right? Yes. Okay. So you and Heather are both going to hang out in the back during each other's speeches, and then during the second half, we'll have, like, during whatever half you're not speaking in, we'll just save 2 seats for you guys in the front. Okay. So after your talk, you come off, but prior to that, just stay back. Yeah. Yeah, I have these. I'll have this.
Thank you. You want to play?
So for the first half, we'll just have you guys hang out in the front 2 seats, so you don't have to crowd it. And then, yeah, exactly. You guys. Where did Abby go? Can you tell me that? Okay, yeah, let her. What's happening here?
Those projectors. If we have these on, we don't need
Are you guys ready? Yeah, everybody's good with the clicker?
Yeah, I have it in my head actually.
Oh, yes, can I actually? Let me just make sure I know what to do. This is going in the right direction. Arushi, this is going in the right direction, right?
Yes. Awesome. Okay, Alex, are we good to start letting people check in at like 57?
Yeah.
At a weird time? Okay, everyone good? Can we start sitting?
Like, go in the back. If you're not eating, come out. Like, we're just gonna start letting people in soon, so I don't want us to be walking around with food. Totally fine, keep eating, but like, eat in the back and then. And then, do we have like a camera or Davida? You have that, right? Do we want to take some pictures of them? The speakers. What's wrong? No, I was gonna say, do we want to have them do like a nice picture on a camera? Yeah. Do you want to take a couple of iterations of that? Yeah. Alright, so I'm sure you guys will do that. So we're gonna take some pictures for you guys. We'll put like good vegetables. Yeah. Then stand all together. We can take individual ones, whatever you guys want. Are you gonna say this one?
I feel like who's that? And then like I got scared because I was reading like the text and I think you'll be fine. But the 60 last boxes, I was
Wait, are you doing registration?
yeah. Hey, can you go and go up there? We're gonna give you some instructions.
Okay, everybody back here.
I just remember I was in the library and that's the only picture I had is like someone Well, did you do good? Yeah, I ended up doing well in the last like that exam was like oh my god, it's like good. We're not right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone's good? Okay, we can start letting people. Alright, speakers, we're gonna let people in soon. We're gonna let people in soon. Are you ready?
Can you bring this plate back there?
Okay, you look a little green in this. I'm gonna come closer and a little bit. Oh wait, you might want to change the slide.
I
Just realized.
Okay. What slide are we going?
I'm gonna
go to
TEDx.
yours.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just gonna go all.
Oh yeah, let me. They're doing photos. And I got someone. Oh wait, let me take. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm gonna walk my bit. 2 seconds. Okay. Oh, were you going? No. Wait, can you take a few of my photos? What? Can you take a few of my photos? Yeah.
Do you want them horizontal or vertical?
We do both.
Okay. Let me know what you think.
Thank you. Okay, we're good. Where's Alex?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, you're good. We're good to start letting people in.
Yeah.
Wait, can we take a group picture?
Oh, yeah. Wait, actually, can we do a group picture and then I want to do one with me in it and one with Josh in it?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, take a group picture. Okay. As a girl, do it. This guy, do it. Okay. I was not gonna ask you. Alright. Alright, Josh is. In the picture.
Oh wait, we're not done yet.
Oh. I was like, gone.
Am I in the middle?
Alright, we're letting people in. It's gonna take like 5 minutes.
Can you not live if you're right? It's an hour, right? For you?
Are both of them not over there?
Well, the one that we originally were using might be here as a battery, but that one is
We have two.
yeah, that one is full. That one's fine.
The inside man. I got that light hurts my eyes.
Okay, he'll go first, she'll say, and then he'll go first.
Sit in the darkness.
Sit in the darkness.
Not be able to see anything.
Sit in that weird blue. Your depth perception's like completely off.
It doesn't look bad. I just got my notes. So I definitely don't. I feel like it's a little hypocritical, but
Hey, I got a singular note card.
I'm proud of you.
I'm on your team. That's my in case of emergency note card.
Is this too high?
I think I'm done enough times. Peace. How we doing? How we doing? Off the college. We're off the rails.
Or be like, my name is Joshua. I'm the speaker director. I'll show you how.
Like, is everything I'm saying so far like?
Yeah.
So what? I'd say like if you're a professional,
Yeah.
check out.
Because I was like, from keeper nursing, I was like, oh, first. That one is being cleaned right now, so you have to go downstairs.
I'll be right back.
Oh, did you plug it into the other monitor? For a second, I'm gonna see if I can tweak it. Okay, but the clicker is connected to the I just didn't want to put this. Hey everyone, my name is Yashin, and I'm the speaker director of TEDx. This spring, we're going to be having our conference, Meet Presidents. If you're a professional interested in a TED Talk, please check out. What should I say? Please check out like the link in our bio. Hey everyone, my name is Yashin, and I'm the speaker director of TEDx. You want to take that down? Okay, good. I'm so happy. Hey everyone, my name is Yashin, and I'm the speaker director of TEDx. This spring, we're going to be having our professional conference, and the theme is going to be Renaissance. If you're interested in giving a TED Talk and you're a professional, please check out the link in our bio. You think it's good? Yeah. Okay.
Like, I don't have a lot of like.
That's all I care. As long as it looks normal, I don't.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Nothing going in. Yeah. Yes, it's going. Come back.
Salon?
You want us to modify that? Like really quick. No, I know, like any small part of your secret is awesome. What do you like? If you like make video ideas, bro, you're gonna be a better. Okay, great. They gotta go and are you If you guys want, you guys can go in and put your stuff down and like come back to me. Yeah. So you guys want to do that? Is the front there?
Yes, Monday. Yeah, my really best friends are.
Whatever comes to mind.
That's talking with it. Like,
Unless I go to the back and I climb up and put the voice memo next to that speaker.
I think that would be better.
Actually, can you go to the mic?
yes. Sorry, hello.
Gosh, do you know where Rebecca went?
I was just talking to her. I filmed a video for her.
Okay.
Did I give you the wrong parking lot? I might have lost it.
Hello.
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
I'm not familiar with
Is it working?
But yeah, student centers are right.
Okay, I'm just gonna keep talking for like. That's all. Hello.
Into the wrong.
That's a little bit. Okay, that's good.
This is good.
Yeah, this will work.
Okay, but like, is the voice like the
I'm
audio?
gonna do it from back there. Really good.
Did you listen? Well, I guess it only needs to be like 15 minutes. You don't need to be back here for the talk, right? So you can just do that.
That's the way I have other people on my team.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh.
Did Alex find you? She did.
Whatever works for you. Whatever idea you got, and we'll go out and find all the extra. Are you so hard and you put your stuff on first, on the topics, write a few words on the card, whatever can be stopped. Yeah. And then back up to I'll begin one. I don't know if they can have you guys taken part in that? Okay, so these are the topics that our speakers are going through. Okay. Could you guys just pick any one of these topics and write down whatever idea? It can be any of the keyword ideas that you guys have. Okay, yeah. Oh, you can set your stuff down first. Whenever you're done, come back and take part.
This is one of the camera angles. If this box is blue, then it's recording. So if that box is not blue, let me know.
So what if it's not
If it's not recording, it's gonna be this. I mean, just let me know if it stops. But yeah, it should say stop streaming, meaning it is streaming. Which means we're getting that.
Oh.
I'll grab it for you. I'll grab it for you.
2 waters, you want a cookie or something?
I'm good.
She was thinking about it.
Actually, I'll take a cookie.
Okay,
Thank you.
Hello.
Oh my God. Thank you.
Actually, no.
Back there.
Hey, do you know?
Wait, no.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. No, I just want to know what it is. Like,
You ready?
is Alex still wanting us to go to this side?
You'll be on this side.
No.
Oh.
Are you still wanting us to go hang out on the side?
Come over there. You can walk, walk up this way. You can walk around back and come over.
Yeah, you don't have to be back there. You don't have to be back there until the intermission. Once you're talking, then you can.
Do we want him to just walk off stage? Like,
I don't want to have her back there.
okay. Go back this way and then around? Or do you want to go straight in?
I would go over there.
Hi guys, what's the question?
When she's done with the talk, which direction do you want?
Sonia.
I would like her to walk off this way.
Well, yeah, that's how she's gonna walk off. But I'm saying, like, I feel like maybe there's chairs back there. Maybe they just hang
Let me show you.
Well, no, I know how to get around off. I'm telling you, like, where am I hanging out? Because originally you said go to that side.
There's two speakers on there. It's gonna hang out here. That's what I was thinking, so it doesn't come.
So are you going to be on the side so I can hang my back to you?
No, we have two
There's
different
a
mics.
tunnel. There's a tunnel that lets you just leave the room.
Oh, perfect.
If you want me to show it.
Cool. You're like, so I'm making these see. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you should be backstage while Heather's going because you'll just be like right after her, like Alex will produce it. You feel good? Where's the?
I wasn't worried. I was like, you know, it's just funny. I feel like maybe so we don't. Give her some flavor.
Feel good?
Yeah.
I've taken a lot of photos so far. I can make like an outfit there.
Yeah.
And then we focus a lot of things. Mainly on the already have a photo.
You're in high school, so you're supposed to hear me.
everyone. Thank you all so much for coming today. My name is Alex, and I have had the pleasure of being the Executive Director of TEDx Georgia Tech this year. I am so pleased to welcome you to our TEDx Fall Speaker Salon this evening. Our theme for the evening is threads, and so all of our speakers have come up with a speech tonight to give, and it all connects back to relationships and connections, and they're all going to tell their story connected to that meeting. And I'm so excited to welcome our 4 amazing speakers. They've been working for months. They've been writing, revising, practicing. They all came in and did a rehearsal for us earlier this week. And so I'm so excited that you all get to hear it today. So before we go ahead and get started, I just want to give a brief overview as to what our program is going to look like this evening. We have 2 wonderful speakers, and then we're going to have a brief intermission where you guys can get up, use the restrooms around the corner, go back outside, get some more food from our wonderful sponsors. And then we've got our final 2 speakers to close out the evening. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome our first speaker to the stage. Her name is Heather. She is a 5th-year aerospace engineering major here at Tech. And tonight she's going to be talking about her personal journey transferring to Georgia Tech and this constant struggle of facing comparison with her peers. So I'd like to start with a question. How many of you here today feel successful? I know, it's a bit of a loaded question. I mean, what are we even defining success as? Is it amount of money in our bank accounts? Close to none. Is it our GPA? Well, that's a can of worms. How about happiness? You know, it's just been a hell week. Are we still laughing, smiling, going to the gym, drinking plenty of water, getting plenty of sleep? Probably not. It's getting a little rough out here. At Tech, success can feel like a mirage, something we're always chasing, but never quite reaching. Our dream, our parents' dream, of being the perfect academic weapon with a beautiful work-life balance, it's a tiny little glimmer on the horizon. And at times, we tell ourselves, I'm going to get there. I'm going to be successful one day. Not today, but one day. Probably. Now, it wasn't always like this. We didn't always tell ourselves that success was this type of twisted, delayed gratification, did we? In fact, I'd say we used to look a little more like, well, this. I want everyone to close their eyes and go on a bit of a journey with me. I want you to think back to your very first time stepping foot on campus at Georgia Tech. For some of us, we're going back years. For others, months. I want you to imagine walking down these red brick roads, hearing the rambling wreck go by, looking up at the clock. You've just done something monumental. You've graduated high school. You're feeling good. You have the entire world as your oyster. You're in a new, bustling city, a real fun place. And success, well, you can practically taste it. Now open your eyes. Look around. That's not exactly what we look like anymore. We went from, well, looking like this to looking like this. Now, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Heather Beers, and today I'm going to share my journey at Georgia Tech. How I went from, well, hopeful to hopeless to, ultimately, standing on top of that tiny little mountain in the distance. Successful. So what is there to know about me? Well, I am a 5th-year aerospace engineering major. Any other super seniors in the house? 1 or 2, yeah. Don't worry, we're going to make it. We are going to graduate. Now, part of the reason that I'm so behind here at Tech is because I transferred in. After 2 years at Georgia Southern University, I said, I want to go to Georgia Tech, and I did. The other half of the reason I'm so behind is because for my first 2 or 3 years at Tech, I did nothing but fail. I failed constantly and egregiously in nearly every facet of my life. My personal life, toast. My academics, whew.
Cleaning up a dumpster fire. And you know, when you're struggling, people like to look at you and they like to be like, hey, when I was in college, it was a real hard thing too. But when I told people that I was late to the meeting because, you know, I was dealing with rats in my home park house kitchen, or when I told them, hey, I did really, really poorly on a thermodynamics exam, like single digit poorly, people got really, really quiet. They didn't quite know what to say. That vision I had, that we all had of success when we first came to Georgia Tech, it seemed to fade as quickly as the setting sun. Now, you don't quite believe me. You're like, Heather, there's no way it was that bad. You're over-exaggerating. Well, exhibit A. That's a 7.5. That's my thermo exam. As I was struggling, clearly, I looked around at all my classmates and I was like, what are they doing that I'm not? You know, they're 2 years younger than me, and yet they have their lives together. They have a ton of AP credits, you know, they're doing research, they're getting into labs, they're lining up internships. They are successful, and I'm not. One particular instance that stands out is in my MSc 2001 class, Basic Material Science. You probably had to take it, yeah. Now, there was this one kid who sat in front of me. He was 14 years old, a literal genius. And you know, one day I'm sitting in class and I make a mistake of looking over his shoulder. What is he working on? What's he doing? I'm pretty sure he had just designed the first water-powered flying car. And the next day when I looked again, moved on to cure cancer. And all I could think is, what does this kid have that I don't? What is he doing that I'm not doing? I wondered, you know, did his parents start teaching him Einstein's theory of relativity while they're still in the womb? What's going on? You know, at Georgia Tech, it's like that statistic about a spider. You're always within 3 feet of a spider, except, of course, in this auditorium. There's no spiders here. Now, at Tech, you're always within 3 feet of, well, a genius. You can be standing in line at Chick-fil-A, and the people in front of you, well, conversating, you're chatting up, and one of them starts complaining that the registrar won't let him take more than 21 credits of the semester. So, it was no wonder through all this, when I heard the word imposter syndrome, I began to wonder if I had it. For those of you that don't know, imposter syndrome is self-inflicted feelings of inadequacy. Symptoms include anxiety, being unable to realize your accomplishments, and this general fear that everyone is going to find out around you that you don't belong here, that you've tricked them, and they're going to expose you as a fraud. Now, what does one do when they think they have imposter syndrome? Well, if you're me, you become something of a beggar. Down on your hands and knees, and you say, success for the fool, for the failure. And you start trying to emulate every other successful person around you. So I dedicated myself for 3 semesters to the grind, hustle over happiness. I told myself that all successful people around me were doing it, and surely I did exactly what they were doing, I would be successful too. So for that time, I stayed up till 3 a.m. I constantly drank energy drinks. I told myself, Heather, you love coding, you love reading textbooks. Either of which are true. And you know, I carried around this little baggie of Advil, Tums, more energy drinks, like a lot of energy drinks, and the occasional vitamin. But I didn't get successful. And I couldn't figure out why. I was like, this should be working. Why am I not getting successful? And it took me almost flunking out of Georgia Tech to realize something. I did not have imposter syndrome. In fact, I had something much, much worse. I had comparison syndrome. Now, for those of you who have never heard of this thing, this very scientific-looking thing, comparison syndrome is like the tech version of imposter syndrome. It's where you constantly compare your achievements to everyone around you, especially at tech, and you tell yourself, my achievements aren't good enough. And if you try to emulate other people, but you're always constantly chasing after them and their success. You step into the same fall, well, the comparison trap. Now, I know it doesn't look too personal, blood squirting out of Mr. Stickman's leg there. However, I would like to say that it is gnarly. Because the true thing about the comparison trap is that you never really get any success in your life. You see, at Georgia Tech, there's always somebody a little farther ahead than you. Some people, they come in and they've gone to a liberal arts high school or a fancy STEM school. Some of them don't even have grades. Their parents might be fifth generation college graduates, generational wealth. So it doesn't matter how many opportunities you have. Somebody else has always had one more. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, she's staying up here, she doesn't look too bad. She looks like she's doing pretty good in life. And you're probably thinking, the good people of TEDx, Georgia Tech, would not let a future college dropout give us a talk. And you're probably right. The thing is, I'm not up here to tell you that I became successful by playing, monkey see, monkey do. This was not the answer. This did not help. So how did I do? How did I go from, failing thermodynamics with a 7.5 to almost flunking out of tech to standing here today? Not to toot my own horn, but how did I decide, I'm going to go for a master's degree. I'm going to get a GRA position. I'm going to get a full-time college offer. How did I do it? How did I get a full-time job offer? How am I standing here today? How am I 2 months away from graduating Georgia Tech? Well, the answer is simple. I started saying yes. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, it seems a little simple, Heather. It is. That's the great thing about it. I started saying yes to every opportunity that interested me, that inspired me, that made me feel ambitious, that made me feel passionate. I'd always wanted to study abroad. So when I got an email saying, hey, you want to sign up for study abroad? I said yes. I would love to study abroad. When Women in Engineering sent out an email asking, hey, I'm looking for mentors to mentor incoming freshmen, I said, I love mentoring. Yes, I will mentor. And I did. When I had a professor come to me and she said, Heather, I'm looking for somebody to work 10 hours a week in my lab. Would you? I didn't even let her finish. I said, yes, absolutely. I will be the best lab assistant you have ever seen. Despite the fact that I knew very little about the lab. What I did know about the lab, though, was that it made me feel inspired. It made me feel passionate. And I started saying yes to things, and I started paving my own road to success. And soon, I looked like this. Much better picture than the last couple, I would say. Now, my friends and family around me were a little skeptical. Like, Heather, how are you adding all these things to your schedule that aren't studying and going to be expecting to do better in your academics? And I had to let them know, you can't understand what success looks like. You can't see it around you. You first haven't defined it for yourself. So that's what I had to stop and do. I had to say, what makes me feel successful? I had to stop asking myself, what is everyone else around me doing that's so much better than me? What should I be doing? And I started to ask myself, what makes me feel passionate? What makes me feel successful? We are all behind when we are walking on someone else's path. I was behind because I was constantly comparing myself to everyone else's journey. And the thing is, they're all going to be way ahead of you because they are captaining their own destiny. You, following without true direction. At Georgia Tech, there might come a time when you feel like you don't belong. But more often than not, the issue is that you're comparing yourself and your journey to others. And you're never going to be able to get rid of imposter syndrome or yellow jacket branded sense of inadequacy, comparison syndrome. until you stop comparing yourself to others and realize this. No two journeys are alike. No two success stories are the same. So let today be a new beginning. If you can take away anything from this, let it be. Your success is on your horizon. Thank you.
Well, I knew that when I heard Heather's speech for the first time, I was like, well, I can relate a little bit too personally to that one. And yeah, I can. And we're going to keep moving on to that one. Next up, I would like to invite Sonia Rajesh to the stage. Sonia is a first-year business administration student with a concentration in marketing. She is a lover of all things color and considers herself to be a business-minded creative. Tonight, Sonia is going to be talking to us about the impacts of marketing campaigns in the fashion industry and how to become a more thoughtful consumer. Thank you so much.
Think back many, many years ago when you were sitting in your kindergarten classroom in the month of November. Your teacher might be introducing a new craft project of the day. And unfortunately, it might have looked something like this: making these Native American headdresses in celebration of Thanksgiving. In kindergarten, I had no idea what the true meaning of these headdresses were for the indigenous population. And moreover, I didn't understand that crafts like these and putting on garments like these without understanding the significance or the value behind them for the original culture was actually cultural appropriation. It's become so normalized today to take little bits and pieces from lots of different cultures and kind of just put them together without, again, understanding the significance or the history or those true meanings. And I'm sure that you can imagine that this leads to problems. Hello, my name is Santi Rajesh, and as you just heard, I'm a first-year business administration student at Tech. I'm pursuing a concentration in marketing, and I have an intensive certificate in sustainable business. And I chose this pathway because the process of crafting ethical and strong marketing campaigns means a lot to me. I love understanding how these big brands are able to really connect with their consumers through the marketing campaigns and the marketing strategies that they use on a daily basis. However, after doing quite a bit of research on different marketing campaigns in the fashion industry, I've learned that the relationships that we're building with each other can start to fray and those threads can start to break when unethical marketing strategies are used. So today I want to talk to you about some unethical fashion marketing strategies and campaigns that have been pretty recent in our world. Because fashion is personal. It relates to each and every one of us. It relates to how we express ourselves, how we connect with other members of our own cultures, and also it's how we showcase ourselves to the world around us. And fashion marketing campaigns in particular are important. Because let's say that a company does something unethical when showcasing its products or its garments or a new clothing line. That mistake not only impacts that culture broadly, but it's impacting very specific individuals as well. Your colleagues, your classmates, even the people sitting next to you right now. So because of that, I cannot emphasize how crucial it is to be able to decipher what is right and what is wrong in the campaigns that you're seeing around you on a daily basis. It not only allows us to become better, more conscientious consumers, but in any career that you're going into, it's going to help you build a more conscientious and better brand. So with that in mind, let's talk about what cultural appropriation exactly is. And it's the most important term of today. Defined by the Oxford Dictionary as the unacknowledged or inappropriate adoption of the practices, customs, or aesthetics of one social or ethnic group by members of another, typically dominant community or society. This is the definition of cultural appropriation, and it's not just a bad Halloween costume. there's a lot more detail that goes into what this term truly means. And with that in mind, let's go into 2 really stark examples of brands that have participated in acts of cultural appropriation in their marketing campaigns in the fashion industry. So number 1, let's start with Gucci, everyone's favorite luxury brand, the company that we love getting bags and accessories and belts from. And I've always aspired to have luxury brands like this as well. But after doing a little bit more research, I realized that some of the values that Gucci portrays to the public didn't necessarily align with my own. So let's take a look. In 2019, on a CNN case study, I noticed this example that I saw online. Gucci came out with this collection of blue turbans at Milan Fashion Week. And these turbans look very, very similar to the kind of turbans that you might see on men practicing Sikhism or the Sikh faith. On the website on Nordstrom, you can additionally see this product listing. It wasn't just showcased at Milan Fashion Week. It was sold at Nordstrom as well for $790. On the product listing, the description reads, "A gorgeously crafted turban is ready to turn heads while keeping you in comfort, as well as trademark style." And that's red flag number 1. Who is Gucci to say that it holds a trademark behind this piece that is deeply rooted and is deeply connected to the culture and religion of Sikhism? Gucci paid no attention to this religion value or the cultural value of what a turban actually means to that faith. It didn't have any information about it on the website, and it didn't even have any models who were Indian or practicing the Sikh religion on its runway fashion show. Many of the critics that I was reading online were mentioning how unethical it is for Gucci to hold this trademark on a product that doesn't even relate to it, and not even showcasing the history or the true meaning behind the turban. So what does this mean for us as consumers? Can you believe that such a product was even put out at such a public level? To get to that state, to be at Milan Fashion Week, to be on the website of a huge company, must have taken quite a few steps. Product designers, the engineers of the prototypes, the individuals working on the Nordstrom website, the individuals who were planning the Milan Fashion Week runway show. Even after all these different steps, it's evident that huge corporations like Gucci are still oblivious and a little bit ignorant to worldwide religions and cultures and the importance of representing those cultures in a very ethical and proper manner. For us as consumers, this means that we can't rely on those big brands to do the research for us. It's important to have self-checks and be self-reliant so that you know for sure that the products that you're wearing on your body, or the products that you're purchasing from, or the products that you're buying from any other industry are ethical, are respectful, and are okay for you to have. The next topic that I want to talk about is Skims, a popular brand that you might have heard, founded by Kim Kardashian. Skims sells multiple products: undergarments, shapewear, loungewear, and more. However, when Kim Kardashian first introduced her brand to the public, she didn't introduce it as Skims. It was actually introduced as Kimono Body, as you can see on this tweet. Now, unlike Gucci, which actually sold a culturally appropriative garment of the turban to the public, Kim Kardashian wasn't selling actual kimonos from the Japanese heritage and the Japanese culture. But it was a terminology that she was using that became the problem. Many sites talked about how Kim Kardashian was creating a trademark for herself with the word kimono. She was using it as her own brand, something that belonged to her and her intellectual property. However, it was also seen as a very bad reference and very unethical reference to traditional Japanese culture, which is not related to shapewear that she was selling. In this room, I know that there's many of you who are going to go on to future careers in numerous different industries. Some of you are going to be product designers, Some of you are going to build marketing campaigns in business, and all of you are going to be the part of some production process in the future, even if it's not in the fashion industry. But no matter what you're doing, all your decisions should be rooted in ethical leadership and ethical production. Again, no matter what. It's important that we're using all the resources that we have at hand in order to make for a productive and ethical future. We have individuals around us who are experts in their own culture, and even one conversation with them can make a big difference. So that huge mistakes like these don't become public and stop before they're even started. Appropriation has no excuse to continue. So make sure you're keeping that in mind when you're in the production process. It doesn't have to be the garment itself that's appropriative, but again, the terminology and how you represent your products matter quite a bit as well. However, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about an exemplar marketing campaign that I found online from Canada Goose. This is Project Atiki, which, according to Fast Company, was a project where Canada Goose commissioned coats from 14 different seamstresses in 9 different communities across 4 different Inuit regions in Canada. You might know Canada Goose to be a company that sells warm winter wear and coats and parkas and really anything that you might need to stay warm in the winter time. However, this campaign was particularly important to take note of because it showcased many, many green flags. In this marketing campaign, Canada Goose didn't just talk about how great its coats were, or how nice the material was, or the benefits for consumers. Rather than only focusing on that capitalistic mindset, it showcased the history and the cultures of the Inuit people. According to Canada Goose, parkas actually do come from the indigenous Inuit population. And because Canada Goose sells those same products and has its products based on that cultural element, it's important for Canada Goose to pay that respect back to where its products even come from. So in addition to showcasing the history and the value behind its products, it's also translated that information into an Inuit language as well to increase accessibility, pay more respect, and overall make it a very ethical brand that we should be basing many more campaigns off of. Again, it's important to take a look at the campaigns around you and do a double take. Make sure that you're supporting campaigns in fashion or otherwise that put extra efforts into their branding. Companies that showcase value for the cultures that their products are coming from. So if you need a little bit of advice on how you can reach that goal, I have the beginnings of your very own anti-cultural appropriation toolkit. The World Intellectual Property Organization gives us 4 incredible tips on how we can make the anti-cultural appropriation mindset a reality for all of us. So number 1 is the understanding and respect for holders of traditional culture expressions. So what does this really mean? It means that we need to take note of exactly where this product is coming from. You need to be able to ask questions that might be a little bit uncomfortable, but are very necessary to prevent mistakes in the future. Know who's the holder of that culture expression, why they're having that fashion-related garment, and the cultural elements behind it. Number 2, the respectful transformation and reinterpretation of traditional cultural expressions. Essentially what this is saying is that if you are using an element of someone else's culture in your own products, or in a campaign that you're producing, it's important that we're not misrepresenting the cultures that came before us. We shouldn't be showcasing them in a satirical light, or in a light that's disrespectful, or in a way that doesn't truly exemplify the values that that culture originally has. If you are transforming or reinterpreting a culture in a piece of clothing, in an image, in an article, make sure that you're holding the traditional values close and that you have the information necessary to do so. Third, again, is the acknowledgement and recognition of the holders of those traditional culture expressions. This kind of relates to the one that I just talked about. But unlike Gucci, which paid no heed to Sikhism or the religious values behind that blue turban, but yet still sold it publicly, and be more like Canada Goose, who exemplified a true respect for the people who created the parkas that it was marketing. Recognizing the people who came before us is absolutely integral, and I hope you're always going to remember that. Finally, and I think the most important tip of this anti-cultural appropriation toolkit is the engagement with holders of traditional culture expression through requests for authorization and collaborative partnerships. When we're born into this world, we're not born with all the information necessary to know everything about every culture, every religion, every symbol, every piece of cultural attire. We're not born with that information. And because of that, we should be more aware of the necessary research to help us get towards that goal. While we're not going to know everything about everyone, we sure need to try our best to make that possible. So if you're ever in doubt, err on the side of doing too much research than not enough. I keep mentioning this, but this goes beyond the fashion sector. This goes into technology and engineering, and again, any of the majors or any of the future careers that you're going to be a part of. So what is all this telling us? Cultural appropriation and the prevention of it is in our hands. Even if it's a marketing campaign that you're seeing at the mall or a future fashion runway show, pay attention to what that campaign is telling you and the values that it's representing, or rather, not representing at times. It might take a little bit of extra effort to do more research into a certain culture's background. It might take a few weeks or months of extra effort to hold more cultural alliances if you're in the process of creating a marketing campaign or some other project. But that effort is always going to be worth it if our goal in the future is to be more ethical and responsible as consumers, producers, and everything in between. So I hope that you walk away today with the knowledge that you should be less like that Gucci campaign and more like that Canada Goose one. Make sure that you're doing the research necessary to be ethical. Make sure that you're taking action whenever you can. And most importantly, remember the values behind all these cultures in whatever you're doing in the future. And with that, I'm going to close off now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonia. With that, I'd like to say that we're going to take a brief intermission. Before we do, I just want to take a second to share our Renaissance Spring Professional Speaking Conference. It'll be taking place right here on March 15th, and we are currently accepting speaker applications. If you know of anyone who you think would make a great speaker or who would be interested in applying, we have a QR code here with the form that you can nominate someone, and we'll do all the work for you. We'll reach out to them, let them know what the event is, and that someone has taken the time to tell us that they think you would make a great speaker. But with that being said, I would like to say we're going to take a brief 10-minute intermission, so be back in your seats for start time at 8:15. We've still got some refreshments outside, bathrooms are around the corner, and afterwards you'll hear our two remaining speakers. Thank you. Oh my gosh, let's see a picture. Sit on this stage. I want to be. I'll just text it to you. Thank you. As cliche as it is, that's true.
Have pizza for like 9 days, I guess. Like we
Actually, that's a good point. Reliefs? You're done? You killed it. And you lost. I was like, wait, that's a good fight. They created the toolkit. It's
When the show starts again, can you dim the audience lights?
How do I do that? Wait, did you write that?
Whose signature?
Thank you. And then yesterday, I was like, and I was like, you always come back to what we have. Yeah, I was like, you're excited. But I guess that we were going.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope everyone had a chance to get some drinks, some snacks. We're going to go ahead and pick up where we left off with two of our remaining speakers. And up next, we have Arushi Gupta, who is a second-year computer science major. She is passionate about philosophy and the intersection of technology and personal growth. And tonight, she's going to discuss Stoicism and how it offers powerful tools to help find balance in an unpredictable world. Hello, testing. Okay, great. Back on track. I thought long and hard about how to begin this TED Talk, but what to say to grab your attention, to be different, something which isn't just a quick Google search away. But then I remembered this quote I hold close to my heart. Everything that needs to be said has already been said. But since no one was listening, it must be said again. My hope is that someone here today who needs to hear this is listening. I'm here to talk about navigating life as you enter your 20s. The chaos, the change, the anxiety, the self-doubt, all of it. And I'm going to do so with the help of some very wise, long-dead people, namely the Stoics. Now, I'm a CS major. My name is Rushi Goodman, and I'm a second-year CS major here at Georgia Tech. And as you can imagine, a lot of my life is spent in the library or surrounded by code. Exhibit A. So bear with me if my analogies get a little tech-heavy. But the best way I can think of describing my life is like debugging a program. But instead of looking for software errors, I'm looking for existential crises. Now, I can't promise a solution to all of life's problems through Stoicism, but what I can do is share how I've used it in my life. I'm constantly plagued with questions like, is this the right major for me? Am I doing enough? What if I failed that test I just took? What if I fail that test I'm taking tomorrow? What if I don't get that internship this summer? I can imagine that many of you relate, especially late at night when you're tossing and turning trying to fall asleep. Now, what I've mentioned are just some simple student anxieties, but it extends beyond that. Everyone has their worries, be it financial, emotional, or in some other sphere of life. Those what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? And it's really easy to get stuck in that cycle. So how do we escape? Well, for me, the answer was ancient. It was Stoicism. Now, what is Stoicism? Well, it's an ancient Greek philosophy, and it emphasizes using self-control and resilience to overcome negative emotions. I didn't expect much of this old philosophy. After all, what can some wise words from over 2,000 years ago have to tell me, a 19-year-old, stressed out CS student in the 21st century? But then I ran into this book by Marcus Aurelius. And to call it a book is a bit of a misnomer. It's more of a diary of his inner thoughts and musings as he lives his life as a Roman emperor. And what really got me about this book was how relatable it was. He mentioned his fears, his insecurities, his doubts, feeling inadequate. This man, who was an emperor of one of the greatest empires of all time, felt the same feelings many of us do today. It was comforting to realize that some emotions are just human. Ever since then, I've been using 3 Stoic principles to guide my life. And they aren't perfect fixes, but they're like a good debugger. They'll point you in the right direction to where to begin to solve all your issues. And the first principle is controlling what you can. This world is often out of our control. We can't control the weather, the stock market, or a multitude of tiny things. So instead of focusing on everything we can't do, let's focus on what we can. Another Stoic named Seneca once said, "We often suffer more in imagination than we do in reality." I found this to be quite true in my life. I can think back just a few semesters ago to my first programming exam. I had to write code on a piece of paper, and I was terrified. All I could think about is, I don't know the syntax well enough. I just took a practice exam, and I got a straight up 0. I don't think I can do this. But then I shifted my mindset from what if I fail to what can I do? This simple paradigm shift seemed really straightforward, and it is. But what surprised me is how much pressure it lifted off my shoulders. And this idea really leads in to the next principle, the dichotomy of control. The Stoics emphasized separating the sphere of what we can influence from what we must accept. In simpler terms,
Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Lately, I've been on the summer internship hustle. I've been interviewing, applying, and I cannot get out of this cycle. And it feels endless and out of control. You can't control what the interviewer is going to ask you. You don't know what technical leak code question you're going to get, no matter how hard you try. But what you can do is lean back on your preparation. You can lean back on your confidence, the way you portray yourself. Focus on what is in your sphere of influence. The last principle is the most straightforward, the most intuitive, yet it's the one I struggle with the most. Embracing challenge. The Stoics saw challenges as ways of improving yourself, of ways to be better. I, on the other hand, for a very long time, saw challenges as something terrifying. I would see something out of the scope of my knowledge and immediately think, I can't do this. And that's not the best mindset to have. I realized at my first internship, at 16 years old, I was paired with a mentor that had 20 to 30 years of industry experience. You could ask him any question in his domain, and he could answer it instantaneously. No Google searches, no, oh, what's that definition I just learned in class? He knew it like the back of his hand. And in that moment, I felt like I could never. But then I realized I was on day one of my journey. It had taken 20 to 30 years to get there. And here is where I want to introduce a quote. It's not by a Stoic, but I've incorporated it into my personal philosophy nonetheless. And it goes something like this. Do not let the fear of the time it will take to accomplish the task prevent you from doing it. The time will pass anyway. That last phrase there is what I often repeat to myself. The time will pass anyway. If I tell myself now, I won't be able to do it, then 30 years will pass and I still won't be able to do it. But if I start chiseling away, it might not take me 30 years. It might take me 40. It might take me 20. But I'll be making progress. Don't let the fear stop you from pursuing your dreams. Now, these principles are all well and good in principle. How do we actually actively apply them to our life? So I want to do something a little bit fun and stop all this preaching at you. Let's take a look at Mark. I was honored to meet him for the first time this summer when visiting him in Berlin. And I want to take a look into our diaries and how we approach different situations. So this first entry is about facing challenges. Marcus said something like, today I faced dissent in the Roman Senate. I reminded myself that the anger of others is not my control, only my reaction to it. Now my diary sounds a little bit more like, today I tried to debug my code for hours. And I ended up questioning every single life choice that led me here. And I realized that I can't control Stack Overflow's opinion on my sanity. But what I can control is how many snacks I consume while debugging. Let's take a look at another example. Marcus once said, time is a river, flowing from the past to the present. Do not stress over the future and act in the present moment with purpose and peace. Now, my day looks more like this. Deadline river, more like deadline avalanche. Assignment due at midnight, project due tomorrow, internship application blooming, not to mention all my midterms. I'm trying to focus on the present moment by frantically caffeinating and typing even faster. Let's take a look at one last diary entry. I failed to conquer the Parthians today. Yet, failure is not the end. It's only an invitation to learn from my mistakes and strengthen my resolve. My diary entry would look something more like this. My code failed to compile, yet again. Right now, I'm pivoting from mildly frustrated to incredibly enraged. I'll come back once I center my resolve, or, take a quick nap. Now, the point of all these diary entries is to show you the beauty of Stoicism. Marcus and I are arguably two very different people. I am a teenage girl in the 21st century, and he is an elderly man, or Roman Empire in the 2nd century. You wouldn't think that we have much in common, but we do. That's the beauty of Stoicism. It doesn't matter who, when, or where you are. You can apply its principles to your life. So let's stitch it all together. Stoicism offers us a choice to react instinctively or to respond with intention. My hope is you guys take these two principles and put them in your toolkit to approach life. Because we can't control the challenges life gives us, but we can control who we become in the process.
Awesome job. She was very nervous and she absolutely killed it. Round of applause again. Yes. And last but not least, for our final speaker this evening, I'd like to invite Abigail Buchanan to the stage. She is a first-year biochemistry major and aspires to one day go to medical school. Outside of her interests in healthcare and virology, Abigail is passionate about public speaking. And tonight, we'll be discussing hyper-individualism in Western culture in contrast to the collective responsibility lifestyle of the East.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. Again, my name is Abigail Buchanan. I'm a first-year biochemistry major here at Georgia Tech, and today I'll be presenting to you Community is Dead, Assessing Hyper-Individualism and How to Fix it. This is my beautiful mother. She's right there. Everyone say hi. Growing up as the daughter of an immigrant mother, I picked up on some cultural differences between Cameroonians and Americans. For example, party starts at 7 p.m. typically means don't start arriving until about 10 for Africans, and the function's never allowed to end before the next day has begun. On my dad's side of the family, extended family is structured. My dad's brothers are my uncles, his non-existent sisters would be my aunts, and so forth. On my mom's side, everybody's my auntie and uncle, whether or not I have any blood relation to them at all. One of the most stark cultural contrasts I've observed, though, is our values surrounding community. In the 15 years I lived in my hometown, I never once spoke to my neighbors. Most of my friends don't know theirs either. My mom, however, grew up surrounded by her entire village and considered them her family in Bamenda. Eastern culture embodies a lifestyle of collective responsibility and togetherness. Children are raised not only by their mothers and fathers, but by their entire communities. In the West, we see increasing emphasis placed on hyper-individualism and an upward trend in the decline and loss of community as we modernize. While these cultural differences are much more nuanced than just an East-West comparison, research finds that overall, hyper-individualism is emphasized in the West, while the East leans more towards collectivism. Loneliness has become the phenomenon of the West, as we have made individualism a defining feature of our lives. So how did we get here, and how can we reshape our lives and our society to move away from individualism and find the thread that connects us all? Many researchers believe that the villain of this origin story of modern-day isolation and hyper-individualism dates back to the 1950s with the emergence of the nuclear family. However, I want to backtrack a bit, and let's start looking at the 19th century, which is when we started to see big extended families dominating the societal family model in Europe and the United States. The Victorian era marks the peak of hyper-individualism. The Victorian era marked the peak of the three-generation household model, as Victorian society emphasized the vitality of family, denoting it as the basis of social order. Industrialization began to allow the white middle class to afford to house non-earning family members for the first time. Freshly emancipated African Americans also adopted the multi-generational household model, largely because of the need for more working hands for sharecropping demands. Immigrants flocking to the United States also stayed close to their families as well. Big families and multi-generational households served as moral units for some and as means of survival for others, and dominated society. In the 1950s, we start to see a shift towards the all-American nuclear family in a post-World War II America. Following the war was an economic boom that led to the creation of nearly 13 million homes and the migration of families to the suburbs as incomes rose and prices fell. Closer-knit families began to develop as returning servicemen started to settle down and start families. We start to see this shift towards the all-American nuclear family, which is a family unit consisting of two parents and their children, and emphasized security, which was achieved by younger marriages and less divorces, having more children, and individualism, as young people left their close families in pursuit of the American dream, stability. According to The Atlantic, by 1960, 77.5% of all children lived in a nuclear family. This was the new dominating societal family model, shifting away from larger multi-generational households. And since then, we're actually seeing decreases in average family sizes towards smaller and smaller families. Many modern families don't exactly align with the nuclear family model at all, as we're seeing increases in the number of divorce and remarriage rates, childless homes, and the emergence of more diverse families, like same-sex parent households. According to NBC News, family sizes today are the smallest they've been in 8 decades, and we start to see the shift towards smaller and smaller family sizes since the 1960s, the peak of the nuclear family. So now I want to emphasize the role of socioeconomic factors in hyperindividualism. Socioeconomic factors are largely underscored in the role they play in this modern epidemic of hyperindividualism and loneliness. Much of the focus is placed around the digital revolution, which has greatly played a role in community as we know it today. However, I want to focus on the socioeconomic factors, transitioning from their roles of family models in hyperindividualism and into the decline of the third place. Third places, or the great good places, as Ray Oldenburg first introduced the concept as, are public, informal spaces outside of the home and workplace. We can gather together to cultivate community. Third places are parks, bookstores, bars, gyms, salons, churches, the coffee shop, and friends. They encourage socialization, support our well-being, and help combat alienation and loneliness. According to the American Social Capital, adults with more spaces to gather actually have more close friends. These spaces are hubs for community to thrive in, and as we see modernization on the rise, we see third places on the decline. Urbanization has led to decreased accessibility to community spaces significantly. The rise of car-centric development often sidelines the creation of pedestrian-friendly environments that facilitate third spaces. Commercialization often caters to wealthier demographics, which decreases accessibility to third spaces for lower-income residents as well. Research finds that as neighborhoods gentrify, traditional third spaces like bookstores, barbershops, local diners, they're all replaced by upscale businesses, which displaces long-standing community members in the long run. With increased costs of living, we're seeing increases in the number of people who can't afford to access third spaces at all. And in higher poverty areas, there's less investment in the arts and recreation to begin with. So what? Are we done for? Are we doomed to a future of only engaging in community through Discord servers? Only engaging in enthralling discourse through Reddit threads? Well, I say not all hope is lost. I dream of raising my kids in a community like my mom's, one where support is all around them, and community is treated as a vital aspect of life. So where do we start? Start where you live. Organize community events. If you're dying to discuss a book, posting a review on TikTok is not your only option. Get together with some people from your community, meet at a local coffee shop, and start a book club. If you love sports, get together with some friends and host a community basketball tournament at your local park. If you're a foodie, host a potluck. Host a game night at a community center. Host an event for kids at your local library. Next, support small businesses. Small businesses have experienced dramatic spikes in closure rates since COVID-19.
Engage with small, local businesses like cafes, bookstores, and family-owned shops to support the local economy and reinforce their roles as third places in your communities. I once had the opportunity to work alongside a small family business back in my hometown, and the community we cultivated there was an experience unlike any other that I strive to incorporate in my daily life. We sold gourmet concessions around events at our community, and we watched as people would gather together on lawns to share a meal and spend time with their friends and family. Next, on a larger scale, we can push for policy change. We can fight for urban planning by lobbying for zoning laws that help promote more walkable, mixed-use common areas and streets that facilitate third spaces. For those of you with more connections or influence, you can partner with local nonprofits and businesses to help advocate for greater funding for community events and facilities that promote community. And we can all advocate for greater funding to be allocated to community initiatives, which all help to sustain the third place. Now lastly, as a personal challenge to yourself, I dare you to talk to one stranger this week. Give someone a genuine compliment, ask a question, or just introduce yourself and go from there. I always find myself thinking about the butterfly effect with people in my life that I consider my community. What if I never went out to that one random person, that one random night, at that one random event, who I now consider my dear friend? What if I never introduced myself to the person who's now my future maid of honor? The Western dream may once have been to chase self-actualization and freedom by building a life for yourself on your own. But I say let's leave the past in the past and reinvent the modern notion of success, working towards a life surrounded by loved ones and a community to pour back into. We're stronger in numbers, and that's something that's been proven time and time again. Let's all work together to weave together the tapestry of shared experiences that make up a community, one thread at a time. Thank you. Thank you all so much. I want to give a huge thank you to all 4 of our speakers. They did an amazing job. So one more round of applause for all of the speakers. And I also wanted to say thank you to our amazing organizing team for putting this all together. They're the ones who interviewed all of our speakers, worked with all of our speakers, got everything ready for today, prepared the wonderful food and refreshments that you had, and everything in between. So with that, I want to say thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed your time here this evening, and be on the lookout for future events from TEDx Georgia Tech. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Max.
Arushi's up there. Yeah.
Okay. I also need to look my.
Okay.
She's coming. Then she'll do like a picture or something.
You're good. Yeah, how does it sound?
I already know. I didn't even have to hear it before. Yeah, let her take it. Yeah.
I told the speakers to say.
Don't walk out those doors, okay?
You didn't even know the slide. You made all the slide? I was like, you are so
It was lovely meeting you.
Good to meet you, Amber, right?
Yes, it is.
Did I hear you say auntie to somebody? Is that the girl you met the first time? Yes. Okay.
I heard the story about you. I know. Hey, where'd the speaker go?
She and I were roommates.
I know, you told me. She's like, I met the sweetest girl. She called me auntie. Where are you from? Where are you from? The Atlanta area?
No, I'm from New Jersey.
Jersey, that's right. Okay.
But like, I think everyone.
It was so funny because I was just trying to find everything to her
Oh, I know.
and she was so unprepared.
She survived.
I've been trying to talk to her the whole time. She said, "Mom,
Well done.
I'm like, what?"
Are you guys trying to get in?
Yeah,
Do you want to take a picture?
Go ahead.
Well, where'd she go? Where'd Abigail
I
go?
think she's right here.
Oh, come on, Abigail.
Do you have someone taking it for you?
I can take it.
Can I get somebody to take a picture?
Also, we're gonna take it from the camera.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, all the
I think.
Where are the rest of the family?
I know.
You guys came together.
I was like, I know you guys.
David and Noah went to Chick-fil-A.
Family picture.
Because we're gonna look here.
Yeah, don't play this.
Oh, precious. Really precious.
No, you know that.
Awesome. Okay, do you want to do a friend picture now?
Say that again.
Do you want a friend picture now? You want to
Friends, come on, friends. It's gonna be a big picture with all of you. I want to take. You want to hop up there and take a picture?
Friend picture.
Well, it's like
Friend picture. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Alexa, are we going?
I sent people to just start getting trapped.
Awesome. Yeah, everybody looks so good. Amazing. Big smile. Gorgeous. Awesome. Awesome. Looking good. Great. Yeah, get your poses in there. Okay, let's look at the official camera. Just do a few more. Awesome. Great. And then did you want a solo shot? Okay. Make sure you have a team. Okay, and then speakers. We're gonna do a speaker and organizing team shot. So if you're a TEDx organizing team, on the stage, please, and all speakers on the stage. Right?
Yeah. Can you make sure if anyone's out there? Nadia.
Okay, you're good.
Yeah, that's a great question.
No, we can all kind
We can
of
ask them to take that.
organize.
This is live streaming the whole time.
We need someone to
It's
teach.
still live.
Yeah, that's
He's trying to find it.